February 2001. I still have no idea what's going on in my life, but I did read quite a few books. So we're going to talk about those. You're not going to see a lot of variety here. I don't know what the hell was going on in 2001, but you'll see what I mean as we jump right in. And I think the first four books, as I did with the last four books in the last video, I'm just going to throw all this together because we're finishing out the Clan novel series from White Wolf Publishing. And so the first four books that I read in February of 2001 are Clan novel Giovanni by Justin Achille, Clan novel Bruja by good old Gerbod Fleming, Clan novel Tremere by Eric Griffin, and Clan novel Nosferatu by Gerbod Fleming. So, if anybody hasn't been watching these videos and this is your first time here, haven't heard about the Clan novel series, it's a 13-book series, each book focusing on a different clan from the role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade. There's an overarching story where the Sabbat, who are like the bad guy vampires, are raging up the East Coast, taking over cities, and the Camarilla, which are our 13 clans, they're the good guys, the organized vampires, the ones that are hiding amongst humanity, don't want to take over. They've been fighting the Sabbat, but each novel focuses on a different clan and has its own sort of central story within the greater story. And there's also these objects of power that these different vampires people are looking for. In these last four, we're at the point where I think Baltimore, maybe, and Baltimore, New York are the last bastions of Camarilla vampires as the Sabbat are just taking over everything. And there's, amongst all this, there's love stories and mysteries and intrigue. Clan novel Giovanni might be a little racist since they're mobsters. Like the main character in Clan novel Giovanni is a mobster strongman, hitman, something, leg breaker. But, and the Nosferatu are the ugly, I mean, they all look like Nosferatu, the famous image of Nosferatu one might have. They live in the sewers. But eventually, of course, the Camarilla will come out on top, but not without some major shakeups within the world of darkness. So that's the first four books, Clan novels, Giovanni, Bruja, Tremere, and Nosferatu. Book number 5 is Clan novel anthology. That's how I put it down. If you look it up on Amazon, it just says anthology, and then I think in parentheses maybe it said like a Clan novel book. Edited by Stuart Week. And it's 13 stories, each one focusing on a character from one of the Clan novels. It's basically a coda to the 13-book Clan novel series. We see each main character from each of the Clan novels, from each of the authors that wrote that particular Clan novel, and where these characters are after the events of the whole series. So, sort of tying everything up, and maybe bringing up some new mysteries. All right, here's the one thing that doesn't fit in with the rest of this entire list for February. The Day the Music Died by Ed Gorman. This is the first of the, let me check, Sam McCain novels. And Sam McCain, he's a private eye. He's a huge fan of Buddy Holly. And he is, with his unrequited love interest, it says in the description, they're traveling to go see Buddy Holly in concert. But Buddy Holly dies in a plane crash that night. But they get to this town, and there's been a murder. Since Sam's private eye, he gets involved, and the main suspect commits suicide. So the cops are just like, it's a murder-suicide, done. But that's not going to be the case. It's a mystery novel. It's Ed Gorman. Ed Gorman always writes great mysteries, and I think this series, the Sam McCain series, is all about like his love for music. So that's sort of a theme that's running under um, the stories. It doesn't, like, Buddy Holly's death has nothing to do with, if I remember correctly, nothing to do with the mystery, but it's how Sam McCain thinks of music and how it affects his life and possibly affects how he solves a mystery. But Ed Gorman, always good. Then we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Willow Files, Volume 2 by Yvonne Navarro. And this is novelization of 3 episodes of the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer that focus on Willow. And I had to write down what they are. The first one was Gingerbread. I think it's just Gingerbread. Could be Ginger Dread. Maybe I didn't write it down correctly. But anyway, some kids are found dead. The town of Sunnydale is in an uproar. There's a literal witch hunt. And since Willow is a witch, of course, she's all tied up in it. And this is the episode. Spoilers. There's a character named Amy who was introduced in the second episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She is a witch. This is the episode where she turns herself into a rat to escape from the witch hunters. And she's a rat for a very, very, very long time. And then next we have Doppelgangland. So there's an episode of Buffy where Cordelia, this is non-Buffy fans aren't going to care about any of this. Cordelia, this character, wishes that Buffy had never come to town. And so we get this alternate world where there was never a Slayer in Sunnydale. The Hellmouth was opened. Vampires have taken over. Willow and Xander are both vampires working for the Master. Of course, Buffy fixes everything. Well, now in Doppelgangland, Anya, the former vengeance demon, and Willow are casting a spell. Anya's trying to trick Willow into doing something. But through this spell, that vampire Willow ends up in Sunnydale. And so they have to deal with 2 Willows running around, one of them an evil vampire, one of them our lovable character. But that's a fun one. And then finally, Choices takes place in season 3. Faith is supposed to get this. I believe this is the box of spiders that the mayor needs to eat. None of this is going to make any sense. People who don't watch Buffy are going to listen to this and say, what the hell was on TV? Faith was supposed to get this box of spiders that the mayor needs to eat to ascend to power. But the Scooby Gang gets it first. And Faith captures Willow. And so they have to make a hostage exchange, essentially. Give us the box, we'll give you Willow. But it really focuses on Willow and her character, how she's grown throughout the show, her friendship with Buffy. It's a fun episode, and it's got Faith. I always like to see Faith, the evil vampire slayer. So that's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Willow Files, Volume 2 by Yvonne Navarro. If you're a fan of the show, you've seen these episodes. But I enjoy reading novelizations. I think we've all established that. All right. Whew. Here we go. Next up, we have Legend of the Five Rings, Clan War, First Scroll, Scorpion by Stephen D. Sullivan. So, Legends of the Five Rings was a role-playing game set in a fantasy version of feudal Japan. And so, as with most role-playing games, There are a number of clans, so you make your character, you choose your clan that you want to be a part of, and that sort of establishes the type of character that you are going to be. So it's role playing game, there's board games, there's card game, and there's novels and short stories and such. So this is Legend of the Five Rings, Clan War, First Scroll, Scorpion. And in this book, the Scorpion clan kills the Emperor. They take over the Empire. But we don't know if they're doing it for good or evil. But it's going to, create establish the storyline that we're going to follow throughout this Clan War series. And we learn, sort of what the Scorpion clan is all about. And I followed that up with Legend of the Five Rings, Clan War Second Scroll, The Unicorn, by A.L. Lassier. I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. I'm terrible at this. It's Lassieur, or A. I think that's a U. Doesn't look like I even tried to close it off and make it an A. So anyway, the second story in this series. And so there's a border. The land that this all takes place in is called Rokugan. Pardon my pronunciation. And so there's sort of a border around it that keeps like the monsters out. And the Crab Clan, I believe, is supposed to be the ones that fight these monsters, keep them out. But they're falling down on the job. And so we have this hero from Clan Unicorn that's going to come in and fight these monsters. Meanwhile, of course, there's all sorts of intrigue and infighting amongst the clans, because that's what these sorts of things, these sorts of books based on these role-playing games, that's what they do. But that's Legend of the Five Rings, Clan War, Second Scroll, The Unicorn. All right, now, the penultimate book that I read in February of 2001 was Drums Around the Fire. Now, I have no edited by, no authors' names or anything down here. I didn't know, I had no remembrance of what this was. And what it is an anthology of stories based on Werewolf the Apocalypse, the werewolf role-playing game from White Wolf, World of Darkness. So much like the Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, you have a bunch of different tribes. When you're playing the game, you choose the tribe you want to be. Gives you a general idea of what your goals are, what your attributes are going to be, because each tribe is different, And so this book is an anthology with each story featuring one of the tribes of werewolves. So you're being introduced to each tribe and essentially what they represent, what type of tribe they are, and some characters. I'm a fan of the werewolf stuff. My introduction to White Wolf and World of Darkness and all that was the card game Rage. It had a subtitle, but I don't remember. But it was basically think any collectible card game like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, that sort of thing, but werewolf based. You build your deck, you could get a starter deck, and then you could buy booster packs, and I had tons and tons and tons. This was my first collectible card game I ever played. You made your tribe of werewolves, and then you made your deck based on what's going to work best with that tribe of werewolves. And there's, certain stages as you play the game. And you can vote on things within the game, and then you're attacking your opponents. And it was a lot of fun. And that's really what introduced me to the whole World of Darkness thing. And since, at least at the time, more of a werewolf fan than a vampire fan, I really dug the Werewolf the Apocalypse stuff. And then finally, the last book that I read in February 2001, Predator and Prey, Vampire, by Carl Bowen. Let's dive back into the World of Darkness from White Wolf Publishing. So, first of all, this book is. Did I make a note of this? It's the first of 6 in a series, and one of the vampires in the whole World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade thing, his child, and that's child with an E, meaning he made someone into a vampire. His child is murdered. His clan, which is Clan Toreador, doesn't seem to care about it. So he's trying to figure out what happened to his progeny, I believe would be the proper word. So, in the World of Darkness, the White Wolf games, you had Vampire the Masquerade. You have 13 clans of vampires. You choose what you're going to play. Werewolf the Apocalypse. You have a bunch of tribes of werewolves. You decide what you're going to do. Then they had, those were the two biggest, I'm pretty sure. You had Wraith, and I don't remember the subtitles or whatever you want to call it for these other games. Because Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Wraith the something, you played a ghost. There were different types of ghosts. I don't know what the groups were called, but again, you choose what type you're going to be. That sort of informs the type of character you're playing. And then there was Changeling, where you're playing a fae, fairy, fae, that type of character. Changelings. And Mage, where you're playing a magic user. And then finally, White Wolf introduced Hunter or Hunters, the Reckoning, and you finally could play a human character that was fighting all of these monsters. And this is the first book in a series of Hunter novels, but I think they're crossing over with all the other games. The first one, obviously, Vampire, and looking it up on Amazon on the cover, it says Predator and Prey, Vampire, and then down at the bottom it had the logo for Vampire the Masquerade and Hunter the Reckoning. I never thought to look ahead and see where the next one was, to see if it's like Predator and Prey, Werewolf, or whatever. But anyway, I really like this book. It was interesting to see, for me anyway, humans a little more front and center, because with all of these other World of Darkness books, there may be human characters, but essentially it's the monsters that are the main characters, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. I love monsters, but now it's finally interesting to see humans sort of taking the front seat within this bigger world. And there was a Hunter the Reckoning video game that I played. It took me forever to, didn't take forever to get to the end. But once I got to the end, the very last monster that you had to fight, it took me forever to defeat it. But Predator and Prey, Vampire by Carl Bowen, final book I read in February of 2001. There you have it. And you can see that is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books, all from White Wolf Publishing in their World of Darkness series. And another one that dealt with vampires. And we have one mystery and then 2 other books that are based on an RPG. So it was a weird time. I haven't looked ahead, so I don't know what March is going to bring us. But a weird month, apparently, in February of 2001, as far as my reading goes. My question for this video is, why do I keep making those weird noises with my mouth that I just did a couple of times? Excuse me. Do you get into a reading mood where you just dive headfirst into a series or a type of book, more specific than just, say, horror, but, say, zombies? You ever get in that mood and you just read a bunch of books in a row that are either just part of a series, or I'm in the mood for zombie books. I'm going to read 5, 6, 7, 8 zombie books in a row. Or I'm in the mood for haunted house books. I'm going to read 4, 5, 6 haunted house books in a row. Does that ever happen to you? Because obviously it happens to me. If you go way back to the older videos, back in the 80s, maybe early 90s, uh, there were months where all I read was the Spencer books by Robert B. Parker, or all I read was the Fletch books by Gregory MacDonald. Just get into a mood. There are times where I've read things simply because it's more likely if it's like a trilogy and I just want to read the whole story and not have to try to go back and remember. And again, if you go back to some of the older videos, you'll see where I'll say, yeah, this is the second book in a series or a trilogy. 5 years since I read the first one. I don't remember what the hell happened in that. Um, yeah, sometimes I'm just in the mood. Although more nowadays, I find I don't know what my mood is, and I'll spend a day or two just trying to figure out what I feel like reading next. I have far too many to choose from. Um, but yeah, every once in a while, I'll just get in that mood and want to read a chunk of something, if that makes sense. But what about you? Does this ever happen? Or are you just random, happy-go-lucky, normal person who reads whatever? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections for me, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. Here's where I just say the same stuff I say in every video. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is at Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. And if you're on Blue Sky, I am at EL Smith. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.